Welcome to the Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe in the studios of our flagship stations, 89.3 Lakes FM and Civic Center TV, on Comcast, Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99, where you can also find us in the Birmingham-Bloomfield area on Birmingham Area Municipal Access, and in Southfield on City Cable 15. Join us live on Channel 10 in Waterford every day on the Media Network of Waterford, and live to tape on Channel 10 in Orion Township and Lake Orion on Orion Neighborhood Television, otherwise known as ONTV. You can also find us on the radio in the Birmingham, Bloomfield, and Troy areas on the Biff Radio Network, 88.1 WBFH, a service of the Bloomfield Hills School District. Find us online on our Facebook pages at Civic Center TV 15 and at Lakes FM, on our website, civiccentertv.com, and on My Michigan TV or My, beginning at 11 o'clock on mymytv.com, where you can also learn more about downloading their free smartphone and smart TV apps by searching for My Michigan TV. All of that information is on our website, civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you can also find all of our programs on demand as well as each individual interview. Then let's head over to our coronavirus page at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, where we have links to the most up-to-date information on COVID-19 from reliable expert resources at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in Atlanta, Georgia, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services in Lansing, and in Pontiac from the Oakland County Health Division, so that you can stay up to date on everything you need to know about the spread of COVID-19, precautionary tactics that you can employ in your daily life to prevent the spread of COVID-19 to yourself and others, such as masking, social distancing, and others, as well as vaccinations and booster shots if you need to get vaccinated or are looking for a booster. Also on our coronavirus page at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, we feature articles from many journalistic outlets throughout the state of Michigan in order to keep you updated on COVID-19 and other stories making headlines across the Great Lakes state. Our top story today from Bridge, Michigan, after 24 hours plus of deliberations, still no verdict in the Governor Whitmer kidnapping case. Jurors weighing in on the case of 4 men accused of plotting to kidnap Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer entered their 24th hour of deliberations on Wednesday without reaching a verdict. The jury of 6 men and 6 women deliberated for 8 hours on the third straight day in Grand Rapids. So far, they have asked U.S. District Judge Robert Jonker for the definition of a quote-unquote weapon, to review transcripts of witness testimonies, and on Wednesday morning for office supplies such as Post-it notes and paper clips. Adam Fox of Wyoming, Michigan, Daniel Harris of Lake Orion, Brendan Concerta of Canton Township, and Barry Croft from the state of Delaware face up to life in prison if convicted on kidnapping and weapons of mass destruction charges. Trial veterans who spoke to Bridge, Michigan said the length of deliberations means jurors are taking their job very seriously. Quote, "They're certainly back there working," said Michael Rajat, a Detroit attorney who persuaded a judge to dismiss charges in 2010 in a case over allegations that religious extremists tried to kill a police officer. Quote, "Generally speaking, the longer the jury is out, not always, but more times than not, it's in the benefit of the defense. That said, every jury is different. We can't paint them on a broad brush. We'll have to wait and see. No one can possibly guess as to what's going on back there," in closed quote. Marquette County Prosecutor Matt Weiss told Bridge on Tuesday, "It's not unusual in a complex case for a jury to be out for an extended period of time." Quote, "What that tells me is that the jury is doing their due diligence and making sure that they cover all charges by analyzing and evaluating the evidence that came during the trial," and closed quote. We said the deliberations follow a nearly 4-week-long trial in which prosecutors contended the men trained for weeks to kidnap the Democratic governor in 2020 and blow up a bridge to slow the police response. The government presented hundreds of hours of recordings from informants, videos, and testimony from 2 plotters who have already pled guilty to kidnapping charges as well. Prosecutors contend the men were involved in the militia movement and hope to start, quote, "a second civil war," in closed quote, going as far as to make explosives and surveil the governor's vacation home in northern Michigan. Quote, "Physical violence," in closed quote, Fox said in a video played during the opening arguments. Quote, "That is the only way we're going to win our rights back and take back what is ours," in closed quote. Defense attorneys contend that the men never engaged in a specific plot and were egged on by FBI informants with credibility problems. Lawyers say the defendants were frustrated with COVID-19 policies, smoked a lot of marijuana, and engaged in tough talk that posed no real threat. Quote, This was stoned crazy talk and not a plan, said Joshua Blanchard, an attorney for Croft, to jurors last month. The identity of the jurors is private, but all are white and many are from northern Michigan. The Detroit Free Press on Wednesday published short profiles of what is known about them, noting that at least 4 of those jurors own guns. Additionally, making headlines at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus from the Detroit Free Press, also related to Governor Whitmer. She has asked the state Supreme Court to strike down Michigan's 91-year-old abortion ban. With the U.S. Supreme Court poised to overrule or weaken Roe v. Wade before its current term ends, Governor Whitmer is asking the Michigan Supreme Court to rule that a 1931 law criminalizing abortion violates the state constitution. If the state Supreme Court rules in Whitmer's favor, abortion would remain legal regardless of how the U.S. Supreme Court rules, as is protocol that if any law that is not determined by the federal government is then determined, or then has the right to be determined by the states. So theoretically, if a state has a law that bans abortion and the legalization of abortion at the federal level is reversed by the Supreme Court, then the law in each individual state would revert back to the laws of each state wherever they were at the time that Roe versus Wade was decided in favor of the pro-abortion faction. There are more than 2.2 million women of childbearing age in Michigan, Whitmer told the Free Press on Wednesday, and those women deserve to know that their rights will be protected. Quote, a woman must be able to make her own healthcare decisions with the advice of a healthcare professional that she trusts. A politician shouldn't be making these decisions for her, Whitmer said in an exclusive interview. Continuing on, the governor said, quote, and frankly, if we fail to act and abortion becomes illegal in our state for virtually any reason, including cases of rape and incest, we'll have one of the most extreme laws in the country. It's critical that we push forward, end close quote. Michigan's 1931 abortion law has never been repealed, but Michigan Supreme Court justices ruled that the law was unenforceable in 1973 after the U.S. Supreme Court found that state bans on abortion violated the U.S. Constitution. The federal Supreme Court's conservative majority is widely expected to abandon or eviscerate that landmark ruling, Roe v. Wade, in a case brought after the state of Mississippi enacted a law barring abortion after 15 weeks. If the High Court rules that Mississippi's ban on abortions is constitutional, performing or undergoing an abortion in Michigan may once again become a felony. State Attorney General Dana Nessel has said that she will not prosecute physicians for providing abortions or women for seeking them. But all 3 of the Republican candidates vying to replace her in this fall's election are opposed to abortion, and abortion providers across the state say they'll close shop if the High Court overturns Roe v. Wade. County prosecutors can also bring charges, and the stakes are too high. Whitmer's suit filed Thursday in the Oakland County Circuit Court asks the Michigan Supreme Court to declare the 1931 law contrary to the state constitution and enjoin prosecutors in the Michigan counties that have abortion clinics from enforcing the law. The argument that Michigan's ban violates the state constitution is similar to the one abortion rights advocates made to the U.S. Supreme Court, namely that all state bans violate the federal constitution's guarantees of due process and privacy. But unlike the federal constitution, Michigan's state constitution protects the right to bodily integrity, which could allow Whitmer's lawyers to make a stronger argument before the state Supreme Court. Quote, there are 2 fundamental arguments here around due process, privacy, and bodily autonomy, and under the Equal Protection Clause, and close quote. Governor Whitmer told the Free Press, the 1931 law, she said, is, quote, based on paternalistic justifications that made Michigan women second-class citizens, and close quote. The governor says that the looming threat to Roe v. Wade, in conjunction with other court rulings that have limited access to abortion, means that there's sufficient uncertainty about exactly how abortion law is implemented in Michigan for the state Supreme Court to rule. Whitmer said a state Supreme Court ruling that Michigan's constitution precludes an abortion ban would give prosecutors, providers, and patients the clarity that they need. Governor Whitmer, who is running for re-election this year, has campaigned mostly on what she calls dinner table issues like repairing the roads or improving schools. But she said abortion enjoys the same broad support. Quote, it is polarizing in some camps, but this is overwhelmingly supported by the majority of people in Michigan, and close quote. 7 in 10, Whitmer said, referencing a recent poll, and quote, and regardless of how we personally feel about abortion, a woman's health, not politics, should drive important medical decisions. With the dynamics on the Supreme Court, this is not a remote possibility. It's become very clear that this is highly likely to happen. We have been investigating and strategizing about how we protect this right for women in Michigan, the governor said. The governor asked the legislature to pass a law protecting Michigan's women's right to choose, but in a briefing with reporters on Wednesday, she conceded that the GOP-controlled body is unlikely to act. Quote, "We're using every tool available, and this is a unique set of tools to protect women, to protect our constitutional right to bodily autonomy, and to make our own determination and protect our economic freedoms as well," she says. Whitmer's lawsuit invokes a little-known gubernatorial power called executive message to ask the Supreme Court to take up her case directly, circumventing the trial court and state court of appeals, and to expedite a ruling. The governor has noted that childbearing entails economic challenges. She says many women who terminate a pregnancy already have children and fear they can't provide for a growing family. Quote, "I think it's important that we're honest in this conversation. Proponents who claim that they're focused on something else, it's very clear that the conversation is all about controlling women's bodies," she said, continuing on. "When you look at this antiquated law that is on our books, it was written 91 years ago. It was paternalistic in nature, intended to keep women at home, to take a woman's ability to make their own choices away. This is a really heavy moment, one that women of a previous generation never imagined would be here, fighting so hard to just protect our rights as full American citizens." That full article from the Detroit Free Press on our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. Lastly, making headlines over there today from the Detroit News as we prepare for tomorrow's opening day for the Detroit Tigers in downtown Detroit. Chilly forecast, yes, but will rain delay the game is the big question. A wet opening day appears likely for the Tigers and their fans on Friday, and it won't be very warm either. Scattered to numerous rain showers are expected in the afternoon, according to Brian Tilley, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service located in White Lake Township, with a low-pressure system moving through lower Michigan and bringing quote-unquote unsettled weather. Game time conditions. Rain is mainly expected after 2 p.m., about an hour following the first pitch between the Detroit Tigers and the Chicago White Sox that are slated to hit the field at 1 p.m. at Comerica Park. Quote, "It's not going to be a whole time, it's just going to be on and off," said Tilley, quote, "with a 70% chance of rain. It looks like there will be at least a couple of occasions where there's rain falling at the stadium," and closed quote. With cooler temperatures and a high of 48 degrees Fahrenheit, a mix of snow and snow pellets is also possible at times, he added, saying, quote, "Hopefully there will be breaks, and then it'll be up to the crew there at the stadium to determine if they can play in it or not. It is a chilly tradition in early April in Detroit, often means unpredictable weather for opening day. Last year, snow showers persisted during a significant portion of the game. 2020 saw a delayed start to the season due to, of course, to the pandemic, so opening day in July was much warmer, though no fans were allowed in the stands to enjoy that opening day. It was chilly but dry in 2019, and 2018's home opener was delayed an entire day due to rain, only for it to start snowing during the rescheduled opener. So, unpredictable weather. That's Michigan for you. All those headlines on our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, as well as those ever helpful links to accurate information on COVID-19. That's up to date from the CDC, the MDHHS, and the Oakland County Health Division. We have a great program ahead on this Thursday edition of the Oakland County Megacast. Coming up, we'll speak with James Willis from JVS Human Services and Kadima, followed by the Birmingham Maple Clinic's Dr. Brooke Weingarden at 10:40. That's all coming up next. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
If you are struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to a $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit, or call toll-free at 833-511-0311.
A public service announcement from 89.3 Lakes FM.
Whether you're the city,
the county,
or the Huron River Watershed Council,
we work together to protect water resources for everyone.
Most of the pollution entering our rivers is carried by rainwater that runs off roads, parking lots, and rooftops.
A rain garden helps catch stormwater runoff.
Rain gardens and their plants help dirty runoff soak into the ground.
You can do your part to help keep our water clean.
Learn about rain gardens and native plants.
So consider a rain garden in your home landscaping.
Catch the runoff with a rain garden.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
I couldn't breathe at all. There was lots of talk about putting me on a ventilator. thought I was gonna die. I was 39 weeks pregnant and had a scheduled C-section. During that time, I got COVID and was hospitalized for a month. I had a blood clot in my lungs. It caused me to go into right-sided heart failure. I was really scared. I kept texting my husband and my mom, telling them how scared I was, and I was worried that he was gonna grow up without a mom. And then I was worried if, when I did get home, that he wouldn't know who I was. You know, being 27 and a mom and a wife and having that all almost taken away from me. It's scary, and if a vaccine can prevent that from happening, why not? Get your vaccine. I don't want this to happen to anybody else.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe. So learn more about the program by visiting our website at civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you can also learn more information about our entire network of community stations and radio stations serving the Oakland County area, including 88.1 The Biff and 89.3 Lakes FM. Joining us now is the program is the Vice President of Workforce Development and Rehabilitation at JVS and Kadima as we approach the summer job season, and many are searching for some extra help in finding that great next job or that seasonal work that they're seeking as well. James Willis joins us now on the Megacast. James, thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Tyler.
Appreciate having you on. So first off, for those that aren't familiar with JVS and Kadima, can you tell our audience about the work that your organization does to help people all across the community in a number of different areas?
Sure. I'd love to share some information about the agency. So JVS Kadima has been in the Metro Detroit area going on 80 years now. We provide employment services to the general public, case coordination, housing, and day programming for individuals with disabilities, as well as provide day programming and respite services for seniors and individuals experiencing early onset dementia.
We're joined by James Willis, Vice President of Workforce Development and Rehabilitation at JVS Human Services and Kadima, with us on the Oakland County Megacast. And so we're approaching the warmer seasons of the year. Spring has begun. It doesn't seem like it all too much on some days, but it's here, and soon there will be summer. With summer, we have both kids coming back from college or in high school that are looking for work, but also some adults too that are looking to re-enter the workforce, maybe dip their toes back in and slowly approach getting back into the workforce. And with that comes summer jobs. JVS and Kadima has a really nice, interesting program with summer job coaches that can help some people get back into the workforce or enter into the workforce maybe for the first time with some summer jobs. Can you tell us about the summer job coaching program and how it can help people that are looking to seek a summer job?
Absolutely. So we're really excited about continuing our summer internship program for high school students with disabilities. This will be our 9th year of offering this opportunity to individuals with disabilities to kind of try out and get comfortable with work again. And last year we had over 100 students participate in the program. This year we're aiming to have 160 students participate in the program. And with this number of individuals working at different sites across Metro Detroit, both in Macomb, Oakland, and Wayne counties, we have a large need for job coaches to support and provide training to these individuals while on the job. So the program basically runs from early July till late August. We're looking for around 30 job coaches to provide this support to the student interns over the course of the summer. The student interns and job coaches will be working in restaurants, retail stores, golf courses, small manufacturing sites, and even public parks across Metro Detroit. And it really is a great opportunity for either a teacher or a teacher's aide that's not working in the summer, college students who may have an interest in social work, psychology, human resources, those kinds of fields. Recent retirees that aren't quite ready to retire yet, but still looking to kind of make a difference, and really just anyone that has some patience and would like to make an impact on an individual who might not normally have the opportunity to work. These job coaches really open up opportunities for these individuals with disabilities to get their feet wet with work before graduating from high school, which really sets them on a path from transitioning from school to work. And again, if we didn't have these job coaches that we bring on each summer for this opportunity, these opportunities for these high school students with disabilities just wouldn't be there.
So tell us a little bit about what these summer job coaches are doing on the job, both in the search, but also on the actual job itself with these individuals with disabilities to support them in their efforts on the job, at their internship, or at their paid work, whatever the case may be, but also to help with the businesses that may be navigating for the first time working with somebody that does have a disability.
Absolutely. It's a great question. So, the job coaches really serve as sort of a liaison or kind of a crosswalk between the student intern and the supervisor. So the job coaches, for each of the work sites gets a sense of what those job responsibilities are, really what the employer is looking for. And then they really work closely with those interns and those supervisors to make sure that those interns are performing good quality work. They serve as sort of role models for the interns and role modeling good behaviors. And they're just generally there to answer questions and be a support. And keeping in mind that for most of these interns, this is the first job exposure that they've had. So having somebody there as sort of a support and a role model for them really makes that transition that they're kind of going through a much easier one. For all of us, our first job was scary and, we didn't know exactly what to expect, but boy, could you imagine having somebody at the work site there as kind of a support for you? So if you had questions or concerns about anything, somebody that you can just kind of go to kind of get some feedback really makes for a nice transition. And really, over the course of the summer, we see tremendous growth in these interns in terms of their confidence and their readiness to go out and find employment after high school.
We're joined by James Willis, the Vice President of Workforce Development and Rehabilitation at JVS and Kadima on the Oakland County Megacast. And when we talk about these individuals that are helping those with disabilities, that are seeking these jobs, that are in these jobs and these internships, who are these individuals that do become the summer job coaches? Are they professionals that are in certain industries? Are they retirees, college students, a mixture?
Yeah, it really is kind of a mixture. So we've had individuals, teachers' aides, often who are not working in the school systems, as well as teachers who are not working in the schools over the summer. This is a good opportunity for those folks. Again, college students who have an interest in, any of the helping professions, psychology, social work, sociology. This is a great opportunity for them to get some exposure to working with individuals with disabilities or individuals who may be presenting with some barriers. As well as a retiree or someone who just recently retired but isn't quite ready to put their working shoes away, but would like to work in either a part-time or full-time capacity. And that's one of the great opportunities with this program is we have opportunities for job coaches to work anywhere from 20 hours a week all the way up to 50 hours per week. So it really is a great opportunity and fits into, so if you're not quite ready to commit to, working a full-time shift, we do have those 20-hour-a-week opportunities for those individuals that are looking for something like that.
And whether it's working with someone that has a physical disability, a developmental or cognitive disability, maybe a bit of both in some cases, what sort of training does go into this opportunity for those job coaches if they haven't had that formal training before, like you said, studying or working in psychological fields or sociology or in teaching and so on?
It's a really great question. We want to make sure that before that job coach gets onto the site with their students or their interns for the first day, we want to make sure that they're coming with a set of strategies and a set of tools so that they can engage those interns in a way that they're going to be confident and it's going to be helpful for the students. So the first week of the program, we're providing support and training to each of the job coaches on just general strategies for training, general strategies for kind of engaging that individual with the disability, and even some level of disability etiquette. A lot of individuals who haven't had a whole lot of experience in working with an individual with a disability may not know some of the nuances that people that are kind of invested in the field or have had specific training are aware of. So we want to make sure that they've had some exposure to that disability etiquette prior to their first day on the job.
We're joined by James Willis, the Vice President of Workforce Development and Rehabilitation at JVS Human Services, as well as Kadima, joining us on the Michigan Megacast. So then, how long does this program last? The summer job coach program, both for those that are participating as the workers themselves and as these coaches. How long does that relationship usually go on?
Yeah, so the program starts in early July. We're starting right after the 4th of July, and will extend through the end of August. So it's about a 6 to 8 week program, depending upon the need of the student and the job coach. So about 6 to 8 weeks over the course of the summer.
James mentioned earlier that summer job coach opportunities are open for those that are college students that may be studying in a number of different fields related to working with those with disabilities and unrelated as well. If they are up for this opportunity, is there a way for them to potentially get college credit?
Absolutely. We find that a lot of students take this experience and bring it back to college kind of in the fall and use it for papers, use it for college credit. So yeah, it's always something that we're happy to work with those college students in terms of getting credit for their experience with us.
For these individuals with disabilities or for their families that may be interested in this program, getting themselves or getting their loved ones some work opportunities with somebody there that provides that support system that is often so necessary for these individuals across their daily lives. How can they go about signing up for this program? When is there a cutoff, if any, to participate in the summer job program?
Great question, Tyler. So if an individual or family member has an interest in participating in the summer internship program for folks with disabilities, the enrollment and eligibility is kind of done through their school system. So they would just reach out to either their school counselor or transition coordinator in the school and just let them know that they're interested in the summer work experience program offered through Michigan Rehabilitation Services and JVS.
We're joined by James Willis, Vice President of Workforce Development and Rehabilitation at JVS and Kadima, joining us on the Oakland County Megacast, announcing that they are looking to hire approximately 30 summer job coaches to provide training and support to high school students with disabilities in their summer job or summer internship work as well. So for those summer job coaches openings, how do people go about seeking those positions if they would like to help your organization support this program?
Absolutely. So again, we have opportunities that range from 20 to 50 hours per week. So there's the part-time, full-time, and even opportunities that would gain a little bit of overtime over the course of the program. The rate of pay is $16 per hour, and we're even offering a $200 attendance bonus for those summer coaches that demonstrate good summer over the course of the program. It's real simple to apply. You simply go to our website, which is jvshumanservices.org/jobs, and you'll see the posting right on there. The other piece that I'll add is we also have full-time opportunities as well. So if at the end of the summer you find that you really like this type of work, this summer seasonal position can turn into a full-time opportunity as well. And those opportunities are posted on our website as well. Again, jvshumanservices.org/jobs.
We're joined by James Willis, the Vice President of Workforce Development and Rehabilitation at JVS and Kadima, with us on the Oakland County Megacast. James, another couple minutes with you before we'll say goodbye at this time. Anything else that we haven't talked about in regards to the summer job program through your organizations or any other programs that are coming up this summer in the next few months that we should be keeping a lookout for?
So JVS just recently merged with Kadima Mental Health Services, and we've predominantly had been kind of previously an employment services or agency providing career and employment services. We're really excited about our merger with Kadima because now we're able to provide additionally housing services as well as mental health services, which in this day and age with COVID and all of things kind of going on around the world, adding this additional piece of services to our already fairly comprehensive service array, I think really is necessary knowing kind of the circumstances everyone's in. And we're really excited in the next couple of months with the merger. We're going to be announcing a new name for JVS and Kadima. So be on the lookout for a new name.
James, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. We'll take a break here on the Megacast, and on the other side, we'll transition to a conversation on mental health with Dr. Brooke Weingarden from the Birmingham Maple Clinic. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
You see certain things get reincarnated in your children. My daughter is very much inspired by my wife's artistic pursuits. So my daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. And if there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And affirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't around, and I remember riding a bike and falling off and cutting myself, and me never just wanted to get back on it. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike, and you did. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
Over the course of the pandemic, mental health has come to the forefront of the medical community and of greater society. And now as COVID-19 cases continue to drop and the pandemic seems to be slowly fading into the rearview mirror, the question then has now arisen, should I continue with online therapy or is it time to go back to in-person counseling? Joining us to answer that question and more is Dr. Brooke Weingarden from the Birmingham Maple Clinic. Dr. Weingarden, thank you for being with us again.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Appreciate having you on. So during the pandemic, online therapy became the norm for safety reasons. It's become the norm, or it's become more of an option across the board medically and in other businesses as well. As cases continue to drop and things are getting more and more back to some sense of normal, have you noticed that online therapy sessions have also reduced? Have they stayed the same?
I think that there are a certain subset of patients who have requested to come back to in-person, whether they are young children who don't have much of an attention span because of ADHD, or if they really are needing more one-on-one redirective. But I'm seeing a majority of patients are really enjoying continuing with online therapy. There have been so many benefits, including just saving time for travel, having to pull children and people out of school and people out of work. And it's been so convenient to have that accessibility to your therapist.
Who have you found in your experience and from discussions with other professionals in your industry, who have you found to be those that online therapy seems to be more effective for versus in-person counseling?
I have experienced, as well as many of my colleagues, that the majority of patients have done really well with online therapy. There have been multiple studies that, even prior to the pandemic, that have been exploring this, as telehealth was something that was starting to come into fruition as a way for accessibility for patients in rural areas that didn't have access to care, and really have been finding that the benefit using online therapy and the benefit using in-person therapy is very similar. And I think that's been something that's really important to remember. So most patients really have found benefit in online. So I don't even know that it's a specific. I would say the majority of patients have really enjoyed continuing online.
So for those that are seeking therapy or have been actively in therapy, maybe online, maybe in person over the last several months, or a combination of both, what considerations should they be keeping in mind as they make a decision whether to continue on with their counseling online versus in person, or some sort of an in-between workaround?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing to remember is, the fact that we have online availability is allowing so many more people to have access to care. So someone who may have not been able to get to therapy because their work schedule or their school schedule, or they're just too busy, or their children, can take an hour out of their day, step into another room, and have access to that therapy. So people with busy schedules really are benefiting from having that online option. People who are not comfortable with travel, people who have a good connection with their therapist. And that can be from the very first appointment even. It really doesn't change that connection whether you're in person or online.
So are there any certain conditions where a therapist may believe that it is best for a patient to have an in-person consultation versus online?
I mean, there certainly would be. There are some conditions such as, eating disorders where you really need to see a person in person, whether they need to be, monitored as far as their weight, or you need to, see the entirety of their nonverbal communication. There are some patients, again, I think that the kiddos that I see with ADHD have a really hard time sometimes with online therapy because their attention span is just not there. Some of the more defiant kids that struggle. I think kids, for the most part, have done better in person just because they feel more of that connection. They feel like they're away from siblings that could possibly be listening to them. They think that they can get a little more engagement that way. That being said, I have lots of kids that I see who have done really well online, but that would be a subset as well for people that are needing to be in person.
We're joined by Dr. Brooke Weingarden from the Birmingham Maple Clinic, joining us on the Michigan Megacast. More information on their website, birminghammaple.com. That's birminghammaple.com for more information and for consultation. Dr. Weingarden, have you found that there are certain personality types that respond better to online therapy or telehealth versus in person? And how can those differences in personality types ultimately lead to more effective care if it is online or if it is in person versus the other?
I have found, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, those of my patients that are either a little more timid, that have more social anxiety, that may be a little more nervous about talking about certain things, maybe with some trauma history, maybe that are just a little more resistant and hesitant to the idea of talking about things, have done really well with online treatment, because something about having that the computer screen in between you is like a separation a little bit. And I think that people feel a little more comfortable then that you're not sitting directly in front of somebody. They get a little less nervous about being able to verbalize certain things that are on their mind, which is wonderful because it's a little easier for them to open up.
We're joined by Dr. Brooke Weingarden from the Birmingham Maple Clinic with us on the Michigan Megacast. More information on their website, birminghammaple.com. That's birminghammaple.com for more information and for information as well on consultation. And so we've seen during the pandemic that particularly anxiety and depression have been very common ailments that have either come more to the forefront of people's medical existence or their needs in terms of therapy. As we're starting to come away from the pandemic and into whatever normal is going to be going forward, are you seeing, or do you expect to see, some of those similar feelings relapse or come back to the forefront also, because there's also this great unknown ahead of us with what does it mean to be post-pandemic?
Absolutely. So I am most definitely seeing I don't even know if it was a dip and then a surge, a continued surge of anxiety and depression. I think we've gone through many transitions throughout the last several years, going from, normal life to lockdown, and then to all virtual, and then to in-person with masks. And, all the different changes have created so many transitions for us. And this is yet another transition with an unknown, and the pandemic is still, it's not completely gone. So I'm absolutely seeing a lot of anxiety, social anxieties, panic, depression, trauma, while people are also somewhat processing everything that they've just been through. Yet there's still some fears about the future, about, finances, health, all of the things that we have been experiencing, but continue to be magnified.
We're joined by Dr. Brooke Weingarden from the Birmingham Maple Clinic with us on the Michigan Megacast. For those that may be having these feelings pop up, maybe they felt these feelings before and kind of ignored them, or they haven't been so severe, or so severe or so visible to them, visceral to them, that they have just sort of passed them by in the past, but now it's at a point where they're feeling this is something that's not normal for me, I'm not feeling quite right. Where should that process start in terms of seeking therapy, looking for the right therapist, determining whether to go online or in person? Where should that process really start for each individual?
So that's a great question, and I get that question a lot from patients and friends in the community. Oftentimes, I think going to your primary care physician is a really nice home base to start, because they will often have therapists and psychiatrists and other mental health professionals who they would recommend to start with. They can really guide you of who they like to work with, who they feel comfortable with. If you are already working with a therapist, you may feel that you need to speak with a psychiatrist, or vice versa. Sometimes you might ask a friend if there's someone that, that they've liked, or if there's another professional, somebody that they've liked. Asking around is good. And if you really don't have anyone to ask, you can always look on the back of your insurance card and see who is covered. They always will have a list of mental health providers on there. And it's a good idea to sort of read through. Now, I always emphasize to patients that the most important thing is the fit. If it's a good fit, you're going to find success in therapy, whether it's online or in person or any which way. If you don't feel like it's the right fit, it's okay to continue to explore and find somebody else, because they might be the most wonderful therapist or physician in the world, but if it's not the right fit for you, then it's not going to be as successful. So it's okay to meet a few people. It's okay to try it out and feel that you need a change.
So it's going to be different for each person. It's going to be different for each professional on the other side, whether it is a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a therapist, whomever the patient may be visiting. For you and for other colleagues of yours in the industry, that first visit with someone, can you give us a walkthrough of what sort of is that first visit like? I know it's obviously going to be different from one person to another based on what they need to talk through or what conditions they may be afflicted with. But generally speaking, what is that first visit like?
So whether you're seeing a therapist, whether it's social worker, psychologist, whether you're going to see a psychiatrist, a lot of people are very nervous because they're not quite sure what's going to happen in the first visit. And I would like to reassure you to say that, the first visit is really just somewhat to get to know you. What's bringing you to see me? Tell me a little bit about what you've been experiencing. Let's talk about your sleep habits and your appetite and some of the day-to-day things that you're experiencing. What are some things that you wish were better? And then you get into a little bit of, family history, medical history, history of treatment. It's a lot of sort of the checkpoints of just wanting to make sure that you're getting to know that person. And if there are questions, I have a lot of patients that say, I'm really nervous about therapy because I don't know what to say. I don't know what I'm supposed to do or which type of therapy I need or what to tell them. And I remind them, yeah, of course you don't. That's not you don't have to know those things. If you're working with somebody, that is our job to know how to direct you and how to figure out what's the best course of action for you. So, You don't have to know any of those things. We're really taking some time to get to know you, to figure out what the best treatment modality is for you. And that could be therapy, that could be medication, that could be a combination of both.
And so on the other side, for patients, what are some of the questions that you as a professional that is providing this therapy to them, this counseling to them, what would you and other professionals like from them, if they are to ask any questions, what should they be asking of the professional that they're visiting in their first visit or in their opening visits, to kind of get that information back and that feedback themselves so that they can determine if this is the right fit or if they need to go look and seek another professional?
Sure. I mean, I think part of the right fit is also sort of personality meshes. And that's the type of thing that's not specific for a checklist. You know, if you feel like you're comfortable, if you feel like you can talk to someone and you feel like you're not judged, you feel like you're in a setting where, okay, I think that I could open up and this person seems to get me. You know, that's a huge plus, and that's a bit, you know, that's more of an internal feeling. But sometimes it's good for a patient just to know, hey, what type of therapy are you recommending? Is there a certain, you know, regimen that you think would be best? How many times a week, you know, would you recommend? Do we have specific goals? Are there specific things that I need to know in order to be, you know, my best participant in this therapy? And there may not, you know, those goals and those answers may change, but it's a good place to start a conversation and to develop that relationship. But a lot of it is really just that internal feeling of, do I feel comfortable? Do I feel like this person really is hearing me, where I can then take it to the next step so we can kind of work together.
We're joined by Brooke Weingarden, Dr. Brooke Weingarden from the Birmingham Maple Clinic on the Michigan Megacast. More information on the website, birminghammaple.com. Dr. Weingarden, before we let you go, anything else that would be important for our audience to be considering at this time if they are in therapy, if they're considering therapy, or if they're considering whether they should go online or in person or some combination?
I think it's just great to know that if you feel that you're struggling, if you feel like, you know, your motivation has changed, you're not interested in things the way that you were, you're really feeling kind of hopeless, you're nervous and keyed up and panicky, and if things are not right for you, if you feel like you're still having a hard time, first of all, you're not alone. There's so many people that are also struggling, and it's always a good idea to reach out and find somebody to support you. We could all use the support. If everybody was working with a therapist, then the world would be a happy place. I think it's a really important thing, and you do whatever you feel works best for your schedule, whether it's in person or online, and just know that both are extremely effective. Both are equally effective. You're not losing anything by taking one versus the other. So if it works for you to only be doing online, wonderful. At least you're there, and at least you can find that support from someone.
Dr. Weingarten, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
You see certain things get reincarnated in your children. My daughter is very much inspired by my wife's artistic pursuits. So my daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. And if there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't around. And I remember riding a bike and falling off and cutting myself, and me never just wanting to get back on it. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike, and you didn't. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
Whether you're the city,
The county.
or the Huron River Watershed Council.
as partners working together to protect our water resources, we agree.
Pet waste is the source of harmful bacteria in the Huron River.
When it's left on the ground, it can wash into the storm drains.
These lead directly to our streams. No filters, no treatment.
Here's one thing we know that can help keep our water clean.
Pick up pet waste and trash it.
Pick up pet waste and trash it.
So pick up pet waste and trash it.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
Who is struggling right now?
I am.
My son is.
Many are struggling with anxiety, depression, and substance use. Before it becomes a crisis, reach out to MyCal, the Michigan Crisis and Access Line, for free confidential support 24/7. Available in the Upper Peninsula and Oakland County. Just call or text 1-844-44-MyCal or chat online at michigan.gov/MyCal. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Motorcyclists are hard to see. To keep everyone safer, it's important to always look for them and know where most crashes occur. 84% of motorcycle and vehicle crashes happen on streets, not highways. And most crashes with motorcyclists occur when vehicle drivers are turning left. So before turning, especially to the left, make sure you look for motorcyclists. Then look again. It could save a life.
To Sofia and Gabriel. Even though these old knees can't follow on your adventure to the forest today, these flowers represent my love. These stitches and threads join us together. And wherever you see a flower, a bird, a beautiful tree, know that my love is with you.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
72.7% of high school students get less than the recommended 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. This can cause pain, obesity, and can very negatively affect your mental health. When you have a consistent 7 to 9 hours of sleep every day, you get sick less often, lose more weight, and have better relationships with those around you. For more information about the dangers of sleep deprivation, go to sleepfoundation.org. This message is brought to you by the WBHS Digital Media Arts Program and 89.3 Lakes FM.
Can I ask you a question? Why did you get your kids vaccinated?
It was hard for them to social distance, to be isolated from their friends.
I want them to get back to school and sports games. So as a pediatrician, I recommend the vaccine to everyone I know.
The boys lost a former teammate and classmate who was only 20 years old. It's been a devastating year.
We want to get back to normalcy. Our daughter is really looking forward to being with her friends, being a kid.
It's the Great Lakes water, and so what people do ends up in our waterways.
Flushable wipes are just evil. They should be thrown away. They're impossible to destroy, and they can cause significant problems.
One of the main things when you're cooking is to not dump fats, oils, and greases down your drains.
They stick to the sides of pipes. They stick to everything they come in contact with. Don't put it down the sink.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
How can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. For help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources. Call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
Welcome to the Michigan Megacast on your radio homes for the program 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake and 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. I'm Tyler Kieft. Learn more about the program at civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll find information on our entire network of stations, including My Michigan TV, otherwise known as My. Joining us now on the program is the Reverend Dr. Patricia Coleman-Burns, Assistant Professor Emerita of Nursing and Black Studies at the University of Michigan. Dr. Coleman-Burns, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me, and good morning to you, Tyler.
Yeah, good morning to you as well. So recently, at the last regular March meeting of the Oakland County Board of Commissioners, you were recognized as one of the notable women for your in the county for your lifelong advocacy for freedom from all forms of oppression. First, congratulations on that honor from the Oakland County Board of Commissioners. What was your reaction when they told you that you were going to be honored by the board for your service in the community?
Well, thank you for acknowledging their award for me. You know, my first reaction was, how did they know that I was doing all of this? You know, of course you send in the bio, but it's really important to understand and to respect the communities that we show up in, that people are looking and watching who we are and what we do. So my first response was, well, thank you. At first it came from Marcia Gershenson, who was of my old district, and then by County Commissioner William Miller. So it was quite a surprise and very well received by me.
So you were chosen for an award in part because of your lifelong advocacy for freedom against all forms of oppression and violence. Can you talk about some of that advocacy work that you've been a part of, and what are any specific moments in your life that really drew you toward being an advocate for those that are facing oppression in our communities and beyond?
There are so many. So I will turn 75 this year, which is a big milestone. So that means I have almost 50 years of advocacy. When I started out, things like women's studies and Chicano Barica studies and Black studies didn't exist. And we created those. I started out at Wayne State University. And it was important because often we centered lives and views and perspectives that excluded so many of us. And so I began to do that work, starting out with violence against women and children, because in the days in which we started in the late 80s, it was sort of under the table. Folk did not mention it. It was a domestic issue. And to do that work, to get the community involved, the police involved, to rise to the occasion, not only of responding, but asking the question, where is this abuse coming from? Where is this hatred, this misogyny, this hatred of women coming from? And how do we address it? And so for 50 some years, I've been involved in that kind of work. More recently, maybe now about 5 years ago, moving to being on the board of Safe House in Washtenaw, and which was quite interesting to me because when I started out in the 80s, no one knew where the shelter was because it had to be underground, so to speak. And to move to see the progress that it is a public space in Washtenaw, Safe House, and supported by the community. Those are some examples of my advocacy in that regard, and certainly around Black studies and women's studies, and now at the university, women of color in the academy, and the work around diversity, equity, and inclusion. But please feel free to ask me and target on any areas that you would be interested in knowing about.
Yeah, certainly we've had in the last couple of years during the pandemic, certainly in the summer of 2020, a lot of these conversations, a lot of these discussions on oppression of certain populations. You mentioned women, but also the African American community, the communities of color, especially in the last few years with different forms of violence in America and right here in the state of Michigan as well. As far as those conversations have come in the past decades and certainly in the past few years, there's still a lot of progress going forward. And so that's why it's important to have advocates like you out in the community to speak up on these issues, but also to bring to light that these issues are far from being solved. So for you, what is your advice to those other advocates, to those young people that are also advocates for freedom from all forms of oppression in our community, to have their voices heard and to also support those in the community that may be facing these forms of oppression today?
Thanks for that question, Tyler. I think first and foremost is to connect the dots. Many of your generation, and I'm making an assumption about what generation you're from, have no sense of the history and struggle that has preceded, to make sure that that history and that information is passed forward so that our young people understand the choices that have been made and therefore the challenges that now face us. The second is to absolutely be true to ourselves. We must show up as our authentic selves. So we say women and then African Americans. Well, I am, as Sojourner Truth said, I am a Black woman. The intersectionality of so many identities is important to look at and for us to work together. Number three, to make sure that voices that have historically been excluded, marginalized, othered, are voices that are heard as we go forward. Why? Because we find that when we include more people with different values and cultures, same values, of course, that we seem to do better. When we listen to each other and we hear each other, we are enlarged individually and collectively, because when we show up and that we is inclusive of all of us, then we are a better people and a better society going forward.
We're joined by the Reverend Dr. Patricia Coleman-Burns from the University of Michigan, Assistant Professor Emerita of Nursing and Black Studies and recent awardee from the Oakland County Board of Commissioners, recognized as one of many notable women for her lifelong advocacy for freedom against all kinds of oppression. And so, Dr. Coleman-Burns, as much as we've seen progress in the past few decades, as much as you've seen these conversations and these topics and the oppression of certain populations in American society and in global society reduce in some cases and change in other cases, and sometimes in both ways over your years of life experience, and seeing what we're also experiencing in these current times, particularly on the cases of race and on gender equality as well. Do you have hope for us in the future that we will be eventually able to resolve some of these issues or find more productive ways to discuss these issues, to advocate for these populations, and ultimately to create a better world that is more equitable for all populations?
Thank you. I have two responses to that. I'm a living proof that we have done better. I buried the last of my father's and my mother's generation, my Aunt Cora. She was 96, and we buried her last week. But my father brought the whole family up from the South, the rural South, in the 40s, escaping lynchings, escaping oppression, coming to Detroit to build a better life. So number one, I'm a testimony that we have made progress. I live in a city now, historically, that was excluded Blacks and Jews. I'm living in a house that historically, because of redlining and racism, I can now live in. That's progress. The second thing is to understand that any oppression of me as a Black African-American woman also dehumanizes all of us. We have to ask the question, how has the way and the oppression, the invalidation, the assaults, the insults, how has it hampered the humanity of all of us? If race is a construct, not only is Blackness constructed, but so is whiteness. And what is that construct? And what do we need to do that we might show up and see each other in the integrity of who we are and the authenticity of who we are culturally and broadly? You know, when you look at, I look at the map of what's going on in Ukraine, and all around Ukraine, there are various nations, Poland, Romania, Russia. These are nations that have rich historic cultures. And yet when we get to the United States, we want people to ignore and forget who they are and what values their grandparents brought. So my message and my hope for the future is that, like I build up on the ancestors of those who come before me, that all of us will see the value of building up on that history, that ancestry, in order that we might be better than we started out being. So I have lots of hope. I've seen it happen.
We're joined by Reverend Dr. Patricia Coleman-Burns, a University of Michigan Assistant Professor Emerita of Nursing and Black Studies, joining us on the Michigan Megacast. You've been, for the past 30 years, an assistant professor of nursing and Black Studies. What drew you to the teaching profession, specifically drew you to college teaching, especially considering that these individuals that you would be teaching in these cases are so close to being leaders in our workforce and leaders in our community in the years to come?
That is an excellent question. I think about, how, and I am a religious person, how there's a burning inside of each of us, even you, and all of our audience members. And you have this drive and this thirst, and you just can't shake it. And when I was a little girl, I would set up all my dolls in front of me and I would teach them. I would teach them because I love knowledge. I love information. I love the process of interrogating questions and thoughts and ideas. And so I came to the university, first at Wayne State University, in the beginning because I had something to share. I had a perspective and a rigor and a discipline that I thought would enlarge and empower young people to find out not who their parents wanted them to be, not who the world says, well, this is, these are the degrees you need to have, but to find the core of who they are. Because when we show up in our own passion and our own gifts, we are a blessing not only to ourselves, but to the rest of the community and to the world. So I love teaching. I love to see young people find out who they are. And in all these years, I was looking back over Facebook, you get to see some of those young people that you sold into 40 years ago, and they are doing well. It is a testimony of how we can, as a democratic society that includes and respects the diversity of all of us, that seeks to achieve equity, how we can be greater than we've ever been, or like Langston Hughes, be the America that we ought to be.
Dr. Coleman-Burns, as you converse with your students, as you see the ways that their minds work, that they soak in the information that you're providing to them and the context of that information that you're providing to them and the connections between that information, whether it be in the nursing side, whether it be on the Black Studies side, or in general life experience that you are sharing with them, how does that inform your future worldview and your ability to look at the future of our society and have that hope that you talked about earlier on in resolving or better, more productively mitigating some of these man-made issues, such as equity and equality differences, such as oppression in our society?
So, number one, I show up in a space where I think students understand that I support and am true to my beliefs and my values. Therefore, they share with me a courage that generations before have not had. They are willing to be critical and to be inclusive, and they encourage me to show up and give the history and knowledge of what I've learned. So, for example, many of our students say they can walk into a classroom and know immediately if there's homophobia existing, that they will be excluded, or if they are to not raise certain issues, or if they're not, because those vibes are expressed in the classroom by our faculty. And they give me courage to call those things out, to listen to them, to work with students to figure out a way that they can be their authentic selves and create and be the leaders for the future that they know they are inheriting. And so what I find in the classroom is, one, they're surprised in the first place that I am at all technologically literate, because they see my gray hair and then they get concerned. But I listen to them and they keep me alive and I feed back into them. And one thing they know about Dr. Coleman-Burns, they call me PCB, is that I will show up for them whenever I am needed by them, listening, hearing what they have to say, and in many cases, not only advocating in the community, in the grassroots community, but advocating for them in the classroom. And they know that I'll do that.
Dr. Coleman-Burns, earlier on, you had mentioned how your faith helps to inform your advocacy work, how it helps to inform your teaching work as well. For the past 20 years, you've been a minister at the First African Methodist Episcopal Church of Farmington Hills. For the past 3 years, you've been serving as their senior pastor. What sort of fulfillment do you get out of that role in your church community too, that mirrors or is similar or parallels the satisfaction you get from your advocacy work and your teaching work?
That is a great question. Because of my faith, I know it's not about me. I know I'm not the center of the universe. Because of my faith, I get up each morning with the belief and the idea that the manifestation of the God that I serve is possible in all people. Let me say it another way. You know, I'm just a human being, very frail. And because of my faith, I can have forgiveness. I can deal with any of my hurt or harm that I've experienced in my 74 years of living, and that I can see the love and possibility in all people, whether they see it in themselves or not. And so it's been quite fulfilling to be in a community that respects the work of truth and reconciliation and honesty. And so I do indeed believe that it is this connection between who we are beyond our lives here in this space and the legacy that we can leave behind and the way in which we show and demonstrate love and build a beloved community.
Dr. Coleman-Burns, before we let you go, anything else that you'd like to say today that we haven't talked about, or any lasting words of advice for those out in the community at this time?
I think we're in a very dangerous period where if we don't look and seek for knowledge and truth and listening, that we need to listen to people who are very different from us and hear and not come up with some predetermined platform, that we can then become a beloved community. And that is what my wish and my vision is as we move forward. So thank you so much, Tyler, for your hosting and for your questions, very thoughtful, and for leading us in this discussion. You have a great day.
You as well. Thank you so much. We've been joined by the Reverend Dr. Patricia Coleman-Burns, Assistant Professor Emerita of Nursing and Black Studies at the University of Michigan, and a recent awardee by the Oakland County Board of Commissioners. We congratulate her on that award and thank her for joining us today and for her great advocacy work in our community, supporting populations that are very much in need of support in our community and change in our communities as well. We're going to take a break here on Michigan Megacast. When we return to the program, Carla Balo will join us from the Center for Automotive Research, where we will discuss the current state of the automotive industry as well as their very interesting near and distant future. That's coming up next. This is the Michigan Megacast.
We may come from different organizations,
but we work together to protect the Huron River for everyone.
Neighborhood storm drains carry water directly to local creeks and streams. No filters, no treatment.
Storm drains also help reduce street flooding when it rains.
So clearing storm drains and the areas nearby of trash and leaves helps keep them for rain only.
It is easy to do your part by adopting a storm drain.
Find a storm drain, check it, and clear it every month.
So keep storm drains for rain only.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
If you are struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to a $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit or call toll-free at 833-511-0311.
A public service announcement from 89.3 Lakes FM.
We as Michiganders feel connected to this resource in a way that I think is really powerful.
Conservation starts with a caring, committed community.
For me, it's peaceful to have a relationship with the river.
Every single one of us has a role to make sure that those waterways stay safe and healthy, being careful about what goes down the storm drain.
Just even eliminating some of your single-use plastic makes a difference.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the total number of people employed by motor vehicle and parts manufacturers declined by 3,500 people in January. In February, the decrease was even larger, with a decline of 18,000 jobs. Both figures are on a seasonally adjusted basis as well. Joining us now to talk about the automotive job market and the state of automotive companies given the circumstances of the job market is the president and CEO of the Center for Automotive Research, Carla Bela. Carla, thank you for being with us today.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
Appreciate having you on. So let's begin with, like a lot of industries, employee shortages are hitting car manufacturers, but also parts manufacturers. We already know that's having a major impact on car sales, particularly for production of new vehicles and sales of new vehicles, but it's also having a pretty general impact on the automotive industry altogether, as people are leaving the industry and those jobs that are now available because of that exodus are not being filled. So give us some insight into the many different ways that this job market as it currently stands is affecting our automotive industry.
Yeah, I think, we have to be clear of all the reasons why we're having, some of the shortfalls in production. I mean, the biggest reason is supply chain. And when I say that, that includes not only semiconductors, but other needed components. We often say here at the Center for Automotive Research, you can't just build cars if you're missing just 10 parts, right? Every part has a very significant role, although we've recently heard some auto manufacturers are actually shipping some of the products without semiconductors and either giving a reduced price or they'll retrofit it later. There's a number of ways to deal with it, but it's a supply chain issue that also, in a lot of cases, is being caused by manpower shortages somewhere in the supply. As we look at what's happening with current workforce, one of the other reasons that we're seeing certain areas of the workforce go down is because people can now work anywhere. So it doesn't necessarily mean that people aren't employed in the industry. It just means they're working remotely or they're working under different conditions. Within the manufacturing plants, though, this is where we're currently struggling. We're seeing three areas where we're losing workforce today. One is just in the assembly line worker themselves, being able to manage everything in their lives, working, having children at home, daycare shortages, a plethora of reasons why folks are finding it difficult to manage in today's world of manufacturing. The second is the skilled workforce, skilled trades workforce. That is one of the most aged workforces that we have. And people are retiring. We know the great resignation. They're retiring and we don't have backfill to come in. And just the third issue is this constant churn as we struggle for people to stay for any length of time in any company. We have just, wage inflation and signing bonuses as we've never seen before to get people into the workforce and to retain them into the workforce. People are jumping easily from one position to another for a higher wage.
We're joined by Carla Balo. She is the president and CEO of the Center for Automotive Research, joining us on the Oakland County Megacast. And we've been hearing some stories, too, about those that are taking these jobs. These are well-paying jobs in many scenarios. They're jobs that are open where these companies are very much willing to hire people, very much willing to train people on the job while they complete the job at their current skill level. And then people are taking these jobs, they're coming to work, and they're leaving by their lunch shift, sometimes on their first day. You worked on the lines while you were in college. Can you tell us about the strenuous nature of that blue-collar work, and also why in these circumstances that sudden exodus is something that's becoming more of a commonality, given that often in previous job markets, you would not want to be leaving a job unless you had something else pretty well secure.
Yeah, and that's just, the battle for talent now leaves that door open. So if you start something, you don't like it, it's tougher than you thought, you just go next door and go to a different kind of job. Going back to when I worked on the assembly line, and of course jobs have changed since I worked there I guess it's been about 40 years ago now. When I was on the line, I did not anticipate what I walked into. I ended up getting a job on the medium duty truck line. I was filling rear axles with oil. I was bleeding brakes. I was over grates. It was slippery. After 2 days on the job, my calves were so sore I could barely walk. And I was 18 years old and in fairly good shape, I thought. It was much more difficult than I had ever envisioned an assembly line job to be. And I didn't even have some of the more strenuous ones. Now, of course, rules have changed and things have gotten better, but nonetheless, a warehouse job, assembly line job, it's not easy. It's repetitive work. It can be strenuous on certain parts of your body. And I know what a lot of companies are doing today to avoid this situation is they're really trying to make people understand all the elements of the job before they hire them, because to go through that interview process, to onboard somebody, and then, to actually start them in a training process, to have them leave quickly, it just doesn't make sense. So the more you can let people know what the job's going to be, or maybe even let them trial it, we're going to start seeing a lot of really interesting ways to try to retain people.
So as these jobs are attempting to be filled, and there seems to be some struggles in onboarding people and then keeping them there for some period of longevity when they do take these jobs, given all those circumstances, what is the answer or the current answer at least, for these automotive companies, for these automotive parts companies that are dealing with this crisis on top of supply chain issues and so on down the line, all of which are affecting their ability to output their materials and ultimately continue to run their business efficiently?
Yeah, I'm hearing all different kinds of things, from retention bonuses, from signing bonuses that have some legs, meaning that, you get this bonus, you retain it, or it gets paid over time the longer you stay here. The other is, really changing the way that they're hiring, to have, the conversations up front about what the job entails, make sure that that's very well understood. Continually checking to see, is the shop down the street going to give somebody 50 cents, $1 more? Is there something that I can do unrelated to salary? Because fundamentally, people want to care about the company that they're working for. They want to care about the product that's being made there. They want to realize their company has a social aspect, and they want to feel proud to work for that company. This is happening more than ever before across several elements of the company, not just the assembly line workers, but all the way up to through the skilled trades, through the salary jobs. People want to feel good about the company that they're working for. So are you saying the right things socially as a company as well? Are you demonstrating that in your hiring processes? Are you being diverse? Are you being inclusive? And then the other thing that the companies are starting to consider is, maybe I need more flexibility. Maybe in a manufacturing, everyone says in a manufacturing plant, we cannot be flexible. We have to start at 6 a.m. We have to end at 2 p.m. We have to have 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there. And yes, that's what's required, but maybe we need to think differently and start doing more job sharing, or start thinking about how people can still manage their lives and still have a livelihood, because this is what people are seeking today. So different ways of managing shifts, of helping people cope with their lives. These kinds of things need to be thought about. It's not just, this is your hiring bonus, this is your retention bonus. You know, people are thinking differently, especially coming out of this pandemic.
We're joined by Carla Balow, the president and CEO of the Center for Automotive Research on the Oakland County Megacast. More information from the Center for Automotive Research on their website, cargroup.org. That is cargroup.org for more information from the Center for Automotive Research. And so, Carla, the chip shortage you mentioned earlier is affecting output of materials, particularly altogether these vehicles, as well as the staffing issues that are also having a major impact on the output of these vehicles. Eventually, the markets will readjust themselves. The supply chain will get back to somewhat of normality, or figure out a way to adjust itself in a way that works across industries, including automotive. When that does happen, do you believe at that point that companies will be able to, given the staffing issues and other issues that are also there, to then output cars again at a level to which they're able to sell more new vehicles, and the used car market is less fragmented, and all the other effects that this current market is having on the automotive industry?
Yeah, I mean, there's several elements at play when you say, will they get back to normal? Sure. You know, I think nobody knows what normal is anymore, but if indeed we're able to get the semiconductors that we need, and we know a lot of plants are being built, this is not something that's going to happen overnight. Combine that with the fact that everything we purchase today has a chip in it in some way. You know, even Build-A-Bear, I don't know if you know, they had to get rid of their hugging feature because they couldn't get chips. I was shocked to hear that, but it's impacting every part of our lives. The other thing that you're going to see is in the U.S. anyway, our population is actually declining. As we know, we're zero growth population. In this kind of situation, you're going to see a lot more automation as well. So as the automakers shift to electrification and they start to build these new manufacturing plants, we are going to see significantly more automation, more robotics. Because, you know, this workforce issue is so, you know, fragile that, you know, you really need to think about investing more in smart automation and smart manufacturing. So we'll start seeing that. We'll start seeing it make its way down all the way through the tiers. That will help. In the meantime, it is going to be a struggle for talent, a war for talent. And companies need to be thinking about things quite a bit differently versus the way we have in the past.
And how much of an impact, too, does this situation they're currently in with the supply chain, and certainly with the chip shortage, on the electric vehicle market? Because that's becoming all the rage. It's something that governments in the U.S. and around the world certainly are very much emphatic about being the new norm going forward in the automotive industry. And given that electric vehicles are electric and they have so many different advanced technological components to them, I would imagine that the chip shortage is having a significant impact on that subsector of the automotive industry.
Yeah, the chips are strongly needed for electrification, also needed for the advanced driver avoidance systems, for connectivity, for all the different kinds of different levels of automation that you're seeing. I mean, the complexity of chips has increased from a very, let's call it, legacy vehicle from around, let's say, 800 to 1,000, and we've got up to 3,000 now in some vehicles. So it's almost tripled. So when you look at that, there's a huge impact for semiconductors. But let's not forget about the other things that are vital for batteries. You've got lithium, you've got cobalt. And these sources are fragile too, where we're getting those, and more importantly, where we're refining those materials. So we need to fix all of those other supply chain issues as well, and make sure that we're looking at every aspect of the supply, all the way down to raw materials. You've seen lately a lot of automakers are starting to partner with some of these mining companies. This has never happened before. This is unprecedented, but you'll see more of it as we seek to secure supply chains.
We're joined by Carla Balow, the president and CEO of the Center for Automotive Research, joining us on the Megacast. More information on their website, cargroup.org. That is cargroup.org for more information. And given the circumstances, but also given the push, as I mentioned, from governments across the world to make electric vehicles the standard for environmental purposes, for efficiency purposes, and so on going forward. And at this moment in time, given the circumstances that we're in and knowing where the industry is at in development of mass-produced electric vehicles, Carla, where do you see in 10 years the industry being? Do you still see that at this point, are you still forecasting, is your organization still forecasting that gas-powered vehicles will continue to be the standard, albeit with greater energy efficiency to them, or that electric vehicles will, over the next decade, be something that does become more of the commonality in the industry and something that automotive really shifts to as their primary mode of production?
Yeah, my answer is yes and yes. But clearly everybody is investing a lot of money into electrification. There are several countries that are already putting in many protocols about only EVs by a certain period of time. Most of the manufacturers are planning to have a fully electrified fleet, and electrified means everything from battery electric to hybrid vehicles by 2025 to 2030. So there are clear initiatives in place. So in 10 years, you're going to be able to buy some form of an electrified vehicle across the board for whatever kind of product you want. That is very clear and happening. Now, the rapidity at which that happens really depends on the customer. And the customer needs to be assured that they're going to have the range they need, they're going to have the infrastructure that they need, and they can purchase this vehicle at the same price or on par with an internal combustion engine. We expect the cost issue to be remedied by about 2025, and that's predicated just on efficiencies improving, supply chains improving, and also potentially the advent of solid state batteries, which will help tremendously in terms of efficiency and cost. So that is predicated on that. The other issues, the incentives for purchase, the ability to be able to charge it and feel comfortable about that, that's all dependent on how those networks are built out, what kinds of policy measures are put in place, and also just think about the affordability issue today. When you've got the average price for a new vehicle at $45,000, most average Americans can't afford to buy a car today. So we need to be thinking about then what are the other ways to promote electrification throughout. And you have to start looking at the commercial side of the business, the delivery side of the business, logistics companies, and also vehicle usership kinds of services, ride-sharing services that allow people to only use a vehicle when they need a vehicle. And that's an entire kind of ecosystem of mobility that has to be addressed.
Carla, thank you so much for joining us. Before we let you go, any other research at this time or any other projects at this time being undergone at the Center for Automotive Research that our audience may be interested in knowing about?
Well, I think, I'd love to come back and talk to you again. We're doing some tremendous research on sustainability, reducing carbon footprint, reuse of materials. When you just asked me about batteries, we're going to have a bunch of batteries that we need to recycle and reuse. And if we do that, then, that helps with the supply chain issues. So we're doing a lot of work in sustainability as companies are really working to improve that carbon footprint. A lot of work on Industry X, automation, additive manufacturing, and of course, lightweighting. When we move into battery electric vehicles, that increases the mass significantly. We need to find ways to bring the weight of the total product back down. So a lot of interesting work on composites and mixed material joining and huge dies. So there's always something happening at the Center for Automotive Research, so we'd be happy to share later.
Carla, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Did Did you know that nearly 3.31 million Americans don't get their annual checkup? Going to the doctor regularly is extremely important and is a crucial factor in maintaining good health. Make sure you are visiting your local doctor often and telling them about any health concerns you have. For more information, contact your local healthcare provider. This message is brought to you by WBHS Digital Media Arts Program and 89.3 Lakes FM.
People are getting out to walk and bike in higher numbers. More vulnerable road users and higher speed traffic can be a dangerous combination. Crash severity has increased, so if you're driving, be sure to slow down and look for people. There's no need to speed. If you're biking, ride with traffic. If you're walking, avoid stepping into the road if possible. If you have to walk in the street, walk facing traffic. Learn more at walkbikedrivesafe.org.
Welcome back to the Michigan Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe. To learn more about the program by visiting civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll find information about our entire network of stations, including My Michigan TV. We're pleased to be joined now by the director of the Catholic Community Response Team located in Pontiac, Michigan. Barb Williams is on the Michigan Megacast. Barb, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, appreciate having you on the program with us. So first, can you tell us a little bit about the Catholic Community Response Team and the ways that it serves the community in Pontiac and surrounding areas?
Okay, well, the Catholic Community Response Team, we've been here for 18 years, and we do basically emergency services for vulnerable persons, things like solving their eviction problems and helping with utility bills, identification documents. So that's anything that applies to their basic needs: food, clothing, shelter, utility payments, those sorts of things.
What communities are supported by the response team? Of course, Pontiac is where you're located, but do you serve communities beyond that?
Our mission has always been focused on Pontiac. Pontiac, as you know, has one of the highest, if not the highest, poverty rate in Oakland County. So the churches that formed us 18 years ago all surround the Pontiac community. So our mission, not only to serve the Pontiac community, but to build a bridge between communities such as Rochester, Waterford, Auburn Hills, Lake Orion, that we can kind of build support back and forth using time, talent, and treasure to help the Pontiac community.
Can you give us a little bit of a look into the history of the organization? When did it begin, and what ultimately was that spark that made the Catholic Community Response Team rise in Pontiac?
Yeah, well, we started 2004, and of course, when we opened the doors, it was really just handling referrals. So we didn't have a big budget. We were just really here to disseminate information, try to connect citizens with various St. Vincent de Paul and other resources that might be able to solve their problems. But over time, we realized we had to do much more than that. And so we really rallied our churches and our parishioners. And of course, it spread from there to many social groups and other nonprofits to build a collaboration to really boost the situation here in Pontiac. We've got a new government now, and there's lots of jobs out there, so we're really excited about the future. But over time, when we started helping people just with their evictions and their food and their utilities, we really said we need something more. We need something to offer the citizens. So I think our big catalyst, if you will, was starting to offer a program called Getting Ahead, which tried to move people and does move people from poverty to self-sustainability. It's a 16-week workshop. We have one running right now over at United Wholesale Mortgage Sports Complex with about 15 students in it. And they investigate poverty. They investigate how it impacts their community. And they investigate the resources that will help them move forward. So a lot of our help starts with just one person who comes in who's being evicted because they had a one-time problem. They had a big car repair and it made them unable to pay their rent this month. But some people wake up every day and day after day and week after week. And they're what we call just living in the tyranny of the moment. And they're trying to solve their problem for the day, whether it's paying their rent, paying their utilities, putting food on the table. So for people who live just spinning kind of in the tyranny of the moment, we really recommend our Getting Ahead program. And I think that's the program that really catapulted us into more exposure and more meaningful commitment to the city.
We're joined by Barb Williams, the director of the Catholic Community Response Team located in Pontiac, joining us on the Michigan Megacast. They are one of nearly 300 Share Detroit-supported charities and nonprofits in the southeastern Michigan area. Learn more information by visiting sharedetroit.org, where you can look up information on the Catholic Community Response Team and other organizations impacting our community as well. So you mentioned one of your key programs in the Catholic Community Response Team over there. What are some of the other programs, events, and initiatives that are ongoing or will be ongoing in your organization that benefit the Pontiac community?
Okay, so ongoing immediate services we provide: food, clothing, identification documents. If you don't have your birth certificate, your driver's license, a state ID card, you can't get a job. Personal grooming items, cleaning items for the home. Those are items that aren't covered by food stamps, so we try to supplement families that need those items. Longer term things would be preventing evictions. Preventing evictions help build stable communities so we don't have turnover in the community all the time. Security deposits for people coming out of homelessness. We help with their security deposit, a one-time expense. Then we also offer furniture. We provide furniture for the home, new beds for the children, and get them set up. We run a furniture bank as well. And then our special programs, besides the Getting Ahead program, we do back to school uniforms, back to school clothing and supplies. We distribute Thanksgiving. For the last 5 years, we've done over 1,500 Thanksgiving turkey baskets. We do Christmas baskets. We participate in early literacy programs with Great Start Collaborative in Oakland County. We have a bike program that provides people bikes to get back to work, people returning from the Michigan Department of Corrections who need transportation. So it's quite extensive. We try to fulfill the needs of whatever it is that people need coming out. A lot of our funding also comes from private donations. So we're not limited to government funding, which a lot of times has a lot of specifics attached to it. Specific income, specific qualifications, specific eligibility. Our funding is mostly through private donations and foundations. And so we have a little more latitude in the types of problems that we can help with.
We're joined by Barb Williams, the director of the Catholic Community Response Team, one of nearly 300 Share Detroit-supported charities and nonprofits in southeastern Michigan. Joining us on the Michigan Megacast. More information on Share Detroit's website at sharedetroit.org. Barb, if people are in need of some of the services or help from the initiatives of the Catholic Community Response Team in Pontiac, what are some ways that they can go about seeking those services from your organization?
Okay, well, all they really need to start is a phone call. So they can call our office. They can contact us through our Facebook page, through a Facebook message. They can contact us through our website, ccresponseteam.weebly.com, and fill out a form on that website, whatever they need help with or are looking for assistance with. So numerous ways. The Share Detroit website, they can connect with CCRT on the Share Detroit website. So we're easy, only a phone call away, very easy to contact. And they just basically touch base, and then we do an extensive interview initially to look at their total situation, and try to assess and make decisions on how we can be of service, how we can help them move forward.
The website again, ccresponseteam.weebly.com. That's ccresponseteam.weebly.com. The phone number for the Catholic Community Response Team in Pontiac is 248-491-9621. That's 248-491-9621. Barb, what are some of the key ways at this moment in time that the community can help your organization continue to provide its services to those in need in Pontiac?
Okay, well, obviously there's always cash donations are always accepted and used wisely. We're very proud of our frugalness here. So cash donations, but there are a lot of other ways too. For instance, we put out on our Facebook page that we're distributing Easter baskets, and many local churches in the area answered the call and provided 20, 50, 70 Easter baskets. We do the same with back to school. We reach out to our network of churches and organizations to help us provide these school uniforms, and we have a great response with that. If you're a Girl Scout leader or Boy Scout troop and you'd like to do a toiletry drive, we would love to give you a list of toiletries that our families need and put packs together for that. So there are many ways that people can reach out to us that are not just cash donations. Through volunteering. We have volunteer openings, help with our office scheduling, answering the phone. We are almost 100% volunteer organization. We only have 3 part-time employees actually. So that's why I say any donations that come into us really do go directly to the clients, because very low overhead, only 3 part-time personnel. And most of our work is done by volunteers who are trying to live out their faith and in mission in service to others. So volunteering in the office, volunteering with our furniture bank, volunteering with driving, distributing our food and clothing. Through COVID now, we've had to change, so we do all home deliveries now of our food and clothing. So take some drivers.
We're joined by Barb Williams, the director of the Catholic Community Response Team located in Pontiac, with us on the Michigan Megacast. More information on their website, ccresponseteam.weebly.com. That's ccresponseteam.weebly.com. You can also get in contact with them by calling their phone number at 248-499-9621, 248-499-9621, or sending an email to ccrt@ccrt-pontiac.org. ccrt@ccrt-pontiac.org. Barb, anything else about the organization that would be important for our audience to know at this time, or anything else we haven't discussed today about the Catholic Community Response Team?
Well, the other just point I'd like to make is that we do collaborate with a lot of other groups in the area. We're a community navigator for the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. So for people who just need to get online to their bridge card or renew their food stamps or file a request for assistance, we do that right in our offices here. We participate with the Michigan Department of Corrections Steering Committee for returning citizens to Oakland County, trying to get them, those who don't have a lot of family support and are recently released, trying to get them clothing and documents, food, to get them kind of somewhat situated when they're first released. And then we work with the Regional Chamber of Commerce here in Pontiac as well in terms of workforce development. We find our Getting Ahead program really speaks to workforce development in people who have been out of the job market for a while or have never really entered the job market, so that they are stable enough to hold a job. Because as you know, a lot of people can get a job, they struggle to hold the job. So we find going through our Getting Ahead program and feeling that they have more stability in their lives sometimes helps with those first jobs.
Barbara, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. More information again on the website, ccresponseteam.weebly.com. That's ccresponseteam.weebly.com. The phone number 248-499-9621. That's 248-499-9621. That is going to do it for today's edition of both the Michigan and Oakland County Megacast. So I want to give a big thank you to everybody that joined us on today's edition of the program. James Willis, the Vice President of Workforce Development and Rehabilitation at JVS Human Services and Kadima. Dr. Brooke Weingarden from the Birmingham Maple Clinic, Reverend Dr. Patricia Coleman-Burns from the University of Michigan, their Assistant Professor Emerita of Nursing and Black Studies, Carla Balo from the Center for Automotive Research, and of course Barb Williams from the Catholic Community Response Team. You can view all these interviews on our website, civiccentertv.com/megacast, as well as our full program from today's edition of the show, as well as other past episodes as well. Usually they're posted sometime mid to late afternoon on our website at civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you can also learn more about all of our partnering television, radio, and web outlets that join us every day for our live programs Monday through Friday, 10 to noon, as well as throughout the afternoon, live to tape, and for replays in the evenings as well. Also, highly encourage you to go to our coronavirus page at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus and keep up to date on everything that you need to know about COVID-19 from the CDC, the MDHHS, and the Oakland County Health Division. Big thank you to our crew that make each and every one of these programs possible. Calvin Brown, our technical director, with me in the studio each and every day for the full 2-hour program. Jared Clark, our Zoom producer over at the offices of My Michigan TV, located in Troy, Michigan, for helping our guests each connect with us via Zoom. Larry Nyland, our producer, the king of television, getting all the guests ready to come on the program and helping us get ready to have informed conversations about them with them on a number of different topics. And of course, Maddie Mushkin out at Master Control, helping us on and off the air. On My Michigan TV, Steve Leto Live is up next, followed by Larry and Maddie Live at 1 o'clock. We'll return tomorrow morning at 10 a.m.